It wasn't intentional. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. But sometimes the truth doesn't whisper, it slaps you in the face when you're not even looking. It was a Saturday evening, and we were hosting a dinner party in our new house in the suburbs of Maplewood. New construction, big windows, an open floor plan, Sarah's dream home. Personally, I thought it lacked warmth, like living in a magazine spread, but she was in love with it from the moment we signed the paperwork. I went along with it like I always did. The guest list? Her people, not mine. A bunch of polished, smug faces, old college friends, a few coworkers from her marketing firm, and her sister Megan, who always looked at me like I was something stuck to her designer boot. It was the kind of crowd where every laugh was calculated and every compliment carried a hidden blade. They never liked me. I knew that. Hell, they didn't even pretend to hide it anymore. I stayed in the kitchen after dinner, cleaning up, trying to stay out of their way. I've always played that role at these things, the background character. The guy who pours drinks, scrapes plates, and smiles too much so nobody notices how out of place he is. I could hear them laughing in the other room, voices rising with the wine, sharp and unkind. The kind of laughter that didn't invite you in, it locked you out and dared you to knock. Then I heard it. Sarah's voice, loud and clear. He can't even please himself, let alone anyone else. It was followed by a shriek of laughter. Not polite laughter. Not, oops, did I say that out loud? Laughter. Real, cruel, ugly laughter. God, seriously. Megan chimed in, loud enough for me to hear through the damn wall. He's like a rescue dog, pathetic, always trying to do tricks for praise. Someone, probably her coworker Jenna, added, and failing miserably. Remember when he tried to fix the fence and it literally fell over the next day? More laughter. I froze, dish in hand, water running, but everything else in me just stopped. I wasn't supposed to hear it. But they weren't whispering either. They didn't care. It wasn't even gossip, it was sport. Casual cruelty, like I wasn't just in the next room. Like I was some kind of inside joke that only they were in on. I should have walked in there, said something, anything, but I didn't. I stood there like a coward, my fingers numb around the plate, my stomach turning to stone. I waited for her to walk it back, to say she was kidding, to soften it somehow. She didn't. The conversation moved on without a stutter. Another bottle opened. Another story about someone else's miserable relationship. Another dig at me, masked as wit. I heard my name again a few minutes later. Something about my weird little hobbies, probably my model trains or the short stories I never let anyone read. Sarah laughed along, louder than the rest. I don't remember finishing the dishes. I don't remember sitting down. I just remember the sound of them enjoying themselves at my expense. This wasn't new, not really. It was just the first time I heard it all out loud. The snide looks, the eye rolls when I spoke, the way Sarah cut me off mid-sentence at parties like my thoughts weren't worth a breath, it all made sense now. I wasn't her partner. I was her project, her fallback, her punchline. I didn't say a word when the night ended. Just smiled through my teeth as they left one by one, cheeks kissed, coats grabbed, pretending like we'd all had a good time. Megan smirked at me on her way out like she knew I knew, like she enjoyed the show. When I locked the door behind them, the silence hit me like a wave. Sarah didn't say much, just kicked off her heels, muttered something about needing Advil, and disappeared upstairs. I stood in the entryway for a long time, just listening to nothing. I felt humiliated, not just because of what they said, but because I saw it now. All of it. And I realized something brutal. They didn't hide it because they didn't have to. They knew I wouldn't fight back. Sarah knew it too. She knew exactly what kind of man I was. And she didn't respect him. That night, I didn't go to bed right away. I sat on the couch in the dark, staring at nothing, letting every bitter word replay in my head on a loop. I couldn't stop hearing it. He can't even please himself. Rescue dog. Pathetic. It wasn't rage I felt. It wasn't even sadness. It was something deeper, a hollowing out, like a part of me had just caved in. And for the first time since we moved into that picture-perfect house, I didn't feel like I lived there. I felt like I was trespassing. The morning after the dinner party, I woke up to the sound of Sarah humming in the kitchen. She was making coffee, her version, anyway. French press, Ethiopian roast, oat milk, 2 drops of vanilla. The ritual she swore gave her peace. I used to try to memorize it, thinking I'd surprise her with it one morning. She never once pretended to like how I made it. I watched her from the hallway, unnoticed. Her hair tied up messily, her phone on speaker. It was Megan, her sister, on the other end, and they were laughing again. About the party. About me. I thought he was going to cry when you said that thing about him not pleasing anyone, Megan said through the tinny speaker, her voice grating and full of glee. He looked like a kicked puppy. Sarah snorted. Please. If he cried, it'd be the most emotion he's shown in months. Another laugh. God, you're savage. Someone has to be. They laughed again, and I turned and walked back upstairs before they could say anything else. My face felt hot. Not from anger, humiliation. A deep, acidic shame that made my skin crawl. They weren't even hiding it. Sarah could have stepped outside, into the call before I woke up. But she didn't. Just like the night before. Just like always. At first, I thought the problem was me. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I was boring. Maybe my attempts to connect, the jokes, the help around the house, the quiet gestures, weren't what she needed. I tried to justify it, make it make sense. But that kind of mental gymnastics, it breaks you after a while. The rest of that day, I barely spoke, and Sarah barely noticed. She went out that afternoon, no explanation, no goodbye. Left me with a sink full of dishes from the night before and a recycling bin overflowing with wine bottles. I cleaned everything while a voice in the back of my head whispered, "She doesn't care if you're here or not." That voice started getting louder over the next few days. She stopped saying thank you when I did anything around the house. She rolled her eyes when I asked how her day was. She started texting during dinner, hiding the screen whenever I glanced over. The sarcasm got sharper, more frequent, and always laced with that tone, mocking like she was daring me to call her out. One night, we were watching something on Netflix. Or I was watching. She was scrolling Instagram, occasionally chuckling under her breath. I leaned over to ask what was so funny. She didn't even look up. Nothing you get. I blinked. Try me. She finally glanced over, smirked, and said, "It's an inside joke. From people with actual personalities." I stared at her, waiting for her to say she was kidding. She didn't. Eventually, I just stood up and went to bed. She didn't follow, didn't even flinch, just kept scrolling. The next morning, I found a group text open on the laptop we shared. She must have forgotten to close it. The title of the group was Sad Wives Club. Cute. The thread was filled with snide comments. Photos of their husbands sleeping, eating, doing chores, captioned with things like "built like a boiled chicken," or "this is what happens when you settle." I found a screenshot Sarah had taken of one of my old Facebook posts, something stupid I'd written years ago. She captioned it, "How was this man not a virgin?" 23 laughing reacts. I shut the laptop slowly, like I was afraid it might explode in my hands. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling while Sarah snored beside me, wrapped in our shared blankets like a queen in a castle she didn't know was crumbling. My heart didn't hurt. It burned, like it was being held under a slow flame. And I knew something had shifted, something irreversible. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't punch a wall or storm out into the night like a dramatic movie character. I just made a decision. I was done defending myself to someone who enjoyed tearing me down. Done trying to win a game where the rules changed every time I got close to playing it right. I wasn't going to scream back. I wasn't even going to argue. I was going to watch. I was going to observe every lie she told, every insult she thought I didn't hear, every eye roll she gave when I walked into the room. And I was going to remember every single one. Because the next time a mask slipped, I wasn't going to look away. By the end of that week, I stopped pretending. I still made the coffee in the morning, still took out the trash, still nodded when Sarah said something passive-aggressive through a yawn. But I wasn't there anymore. I was a passenger in my own life, watching her demolish whatever was left of us, one insult, one sigh, one smug look at a time. I started keeping a notebook, just a small one, tucked inside the drawer of my nightstand. Each page held something different. Not rants or raw feelings, no. I wrote facts, dates, quotes, times, conversations I overheard when she didn't know I was in the house, messages she left open on her phone by mistake, the names of people I didn't recognize who seemed to text her "you up" a little too often. I wasn't building a case to confront her with. I was building a record for myself, so that when this ended and I looked back at the smoldering wreckage of what used to be my marriage, I wouldn't second-guess how we got there. The cruelty didn't slow down. If anything, it got worse. One evening, she came home from work wearing lipstick she hadn't worn in months. She was glowing, talking fast, animated. I asked how her day went. She gave me that thin smile, the one that didn't touch her eyes. Busy. Actually talked to people who can hold a conversation. She walked off before I could even register the jab. Later that night, while she was in the shower, I checked her purse. I hated myself for it. But the second I saw that unread message preview light up her phone, I missed that smile. I stopped hesitating. In her bag was a receipt. Dinner for two. Some overpriced steakhouse downtown. She had told me she was working late. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding that receipt like it was evidence from a crime scene. Because in a way it was. The next day, I noticed her leave the house wearing heels she never wore unless she was trying to impress someone. She didn't say where she was going. Just left. No kiss goodbye. Not even a glance. I followed her. I kept my distance. Stayed 2 cars back. Made every red light look like coincidence. She drove downtown, parked in a garage near the hotel district, and walked straight into a sleek glass tower like she'd done it before. I waited in my car for 40 minutes. When she came out, she wasn't alone. He was tall, designer haircut, that expensive wrinkled look some guys get when they want to seem relaxed but calculated. He touched her lower back like he owned her. She didn't pull away. They laughed. She looked happy. Really, genuinely happy. It hit me harder than I expected. Not because she cheated, I think part of me already knew, but because she had never looked at me that way. Not in years. I didn't confront her. Not then. I wanted to. I wanted to walk right up and ask if he thought she snored like a chainsaw, or if she also laughed behind his back when he made her the wrong coffee. But I didn't. I waited until she got home later that night. She came through the door humming, makeup perfect, not a trace of guilt on her face. She walked past me like I was furniture. "You eat already?" she asked, pulling off her coat. I nodded. "Yeah." "Cool." She went upstairs. I stared at the wall and wondered how many more lies she could tell while still pretending she wasn't the villain in all of this. The next day, her friends came over, Jenna, Megan, and someone new. I didn't catch her name. I stayed quiet in the kitchen like I always did, but they didn't lower their voices. "Did he seriously try to talk to you about his writing again?" Jenna said, laughing into her wine glass. Sarah snorted. "Oh yeah, he thinks he's this tortured genius." Meanwhile, I have to stop myself from laughing every time he shows me a paragraph. Megan chimed in, "Don't. He's like a stray cat that thinks it's a tiger. Let him dream." They laughed. Loud. Long free. That night, I stared at myself in the mirror. I looked older. Like something inside me had shifted and aged in ways I couldn't undo. And I whispered to my reflection, not angrily, just matter of fact, "You're not coming back from this." I wasn't sad anymore. I was just done with the pretending, with the waiting, with the hope that she'd notice the damage she was doing. Let her burn it all down. I wasn't going to stop her, but I'd make damn sure she stood in the ashes and knew she was the one who lit the match. I didn't leave the next day. That would have been too easy. I stayed. I smiled. I did the dishes. I folded laundry. I played the role she expected of me. Because that's what she wanted, right? A man too numb to notice the poison. A man too weak to fight back. So I gave her exactly what she expected. Right up until the moment she realized she didn't have control anymore. She started noticing bit by bit. First, I stopped reacting. Her digs didn't land. Her sarcasm didn't spark a reply. When she mocked me to her friends and glanced in my direction, I just blinked and looked away. Not wounded. Not angry. Just done. Then I stopped asking where she was going, who she was texting, why she came home at 2 a.m. smelling like someone else's cologne. I didn't ask because I didn't care. Not anymore. And that scared her more than anything. When someone's used to you chasing, your silence feels like a threat. She started trying weird little ways. She'd make dinner and call it ours, even though she never ate with me. She mentioned things I liked, old inside jokes, like she could rewind the clock. She wore a dress she hadn't touched in years and said, "Remember this?" like it meant something. I just nodded and walked past her. She called me babe again one night. The word hung in the air like a trap. I didn't say it back. I think that was the moment she knew something was really wrong. I never confronted her about the guy, not even when she left her phone unlocked and I saw his name again. I just kept adding to the notebook. Times, dates, screenshots, a whole archive of her unraveling. I wasn't gathering ammo to destroy her. I was gathering clarity, evidence for myself, so I'd never doubt that I had tried, that I stayed too long, that I gave more chances than she ever deserved. The real end came 2 weeks later. We were in the living room, barely speaking, the TV humming in the background like a third party. She turned to me out of nowhere and said, "Why are you being so weird lately?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Perfect hair, painted on expression. She had no idea how far gone I already was. "You don't get to call it weird," I said calmly. "You made this bed." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, are we doing this again?" "No," I said, standing up. "We're done doing anything." She stared at me, confused, annoyed, like I'd interrupted her show. "I'm leaving," I said. She scoffed. "Yeah, okay. Where are you going?" "Your mom's." I picked up the duffel bag I'd packed 3 days earlier, walked to the door, and opened it. I paused just long enough to turn around and say, "No, somewhere that doesn't hate me for existing." The door clicked shut behind me. I didn't slam it. I didn't yell. I didn't give her the drama she was aching for. I just left. And God, the silence in my car as I drove away was the loudest peace I'd ever known. I stayed in a cheap motel for the first few nights, just to get my head on straight. No noise, no guilt, no walking on eggshells, just 4 walls and my own breathing. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I just sat there and remembered how it felt to have a mind that wasn't under siege. A week later, I emailed her a list, the lawyers she'd need to contact, the items she could keep, the day I'd be by to pick up the rest of my things. No emotion, just logistics, clean and cold. She texted me once. "So you just gone?" "That's it." I didn't reply. Because yes, that was it. She burned down the house, then panicked when I walked out of the flames without screaming. I'm not naive. I know she's telling people I'm a coward, that I bailed, that I was too sensitive or too boring or too fragile to handle a real woman. That's fine. Let her build her little myth. I'm done carrying the weight of someone else's story. The truth is simple. She broke something, and I finally let her keep the pieces,